There are men in Kenya today who will just choose to totally ignore the cabinet reshuffle of the Ruto administration that unfolded a few hours ago. However, my advice is, for anybody who wants to stay on top of the game in analyzing and understanding Kenyan politics, and more importantly, understanding the current state of the nation and our politics, it is terribly important not to ignore that reshuffle. And you know, I'm also talking to myself. Because if truth be told, then what we have witnessed is a joke. Let me just give you a very simple example. In the first 3 months of the Ruto administration, Moses Kuria, who was the CS trade, made more foreign trips than the foreign CS, Alfred Mutua. 19 in the first 3 months. Many Kenyans missed the cruel joke on Kenyans linked to these foreign trips. Let me explain. What is the work of a foreign CS? In case you didn't know, in peacetime, their main agenda, they spend most of their time on this particular task, is trade. Indeed, their chief contribution to any administration has to be trade. Now, when you have the trade CS doing the work of the foreign CS, or rather a very large chunk of the work of the foreign CS, what are you actually doing? You're wasting public resources, taxpayers' money. You're focusing on doing somebody else's job. Because as trade CS, there are very, very many issues back home which have to remain on hold as you travel the world. And nobody advises the president concerning that. So that's what I mean, a joke. And there are many other examples I can give you, including tough wars between cabinet secretaries and permanent secretaries from a certain region in the country. But the reason why we have to pay attention to this latest development can be summarized in 3 words. Those 3 words are money, message, and mirage. Okay? That is what this cabinet reshuffle is all about. Now let us quickly tackle all 3. Then I will tell you the one I think was the most important in instigating this game of musical chairs shifting around people, that we have just witnessed. What struck me immediately was that this reshuffle is about saving money. Saving money that is not there. We all know that Kenya may be technically bankrupt. And I appreciate that may be very difficult to believe, because the government has continued to spend lavishly. New cars, foreign trips, large delegations, and I mean foreign trips, for many other people in government, which cost a lot of money, obviously. By transferring the foreign docket from Alfred Mutua to Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary, this administration will end up achieving perhaps the largest cut in expenditure in its entire history. Now stay with me, because the last M in money, message, mirage, the last one is mirage, will blow your mind. Now you'll have noticed over the last week or so, this administration has finally moved to cut costs. And it is interesting that this happened after there were a lot of stories in the media asking the question, if times are hard, why is this not reflected in the way this government is behaving? And so one would be forgiven for assuming the recent statements from this government about cost cutting here and there may have been a knee-jerk reaction. Yeah, somebody hits your knee and it jerks in reaction, which anybody will tell you is not the way to manage anything. Not even your kitchen at home. It's not. Let alone a government that affects millions of people in that particular country, and in this case our beloved motherland, Kenya. But if one of the main objectives of this reshuffle was to save money, cut down on costs, control expenditure, then there is also the huge danger that this administration may have cut its own feet politically, because the political repercussion and consequences could be huge. Why? Because it is difficult to ignore what people are saying, that the Mount Kenya region has been hit hardest in this particular latest reshuffle, because more power has gone to Musalia Mudavadi. Apart from the very important key dockets he was already controlling, now he has foreign affairs under his wing, which emphasizes the position many Kenyans are saying he holds of being more powerful than the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua. Let me put it this way. I think we can agree that this latest move will not boost the morale of senior people in government from the Mount Kenya region. It won't. Which brings us to the second M, message. Now, in the days of the guru of cabinet reshuffles, the late President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, second president of Kenya, reshuffles were used many times to steady the political ship of Moi. Because when you reshuffle, when you drop a cabinet secretary, you're sending a very strong message to those people within the administration who are fighting amongst themselves. You're telling them, hey, pay attention to me. I am the boss. You're emphasizing your position as the boss. And in those days, you could very quickly see the impact politically. Those squabbles and infighting and so on would immediately stop, or at least slow down. Fast forward to the present, I'm sure you have not missed the many squabbles, infighting, tough wars within the Ruto administration, which had reached a stage where people had started talking about the possible consequence of sinking the entire ship. These squabbles, these wars within UDA and Kenya Kwanza. But I see a huge difference here between Moi and now Ruto. In the Moi days, a reshuffle would never have the consequence of people rebelling. Now in the current case, that is a high likelihood. Let us take as an example Alice Wahome's former docket of water. You all remember what was going on there. There was a major battle between Alice Wahome and her PS. There was very clear insubordination by the PS. Because how do you write a letter and copy it to your boss? I guess you can do that in a few instances. But in this instance, you copy it to your boss and many other people, including the anti-corruption guys. And now, after many months of that war, and somebody asks a very simple question, a very predictable one. Who won? What will the answer be? There should be no debate on this. Alice Wahome from the Mount Kenya region lost. In this message to the troops, hey, order, I'm the boss. That was the message. I am the one who can really do things to hurt you, or to elevate you. In this message, who else has lost from the Mount Kenya region? Rigathi Gachagua has also lost. And based on very recent political developments, there is a very high likelihood that these chief shareholders in this administration may just decide enough is enough. We have had it. This is it. No. We are saying no. That is a very high likelihood. On to the third M. What is a mirage? You're walking around in the desert, you're thirsty, you're hungry, you feel like you're almost losing hope. Then you look to the horizon and you see water. It completely diverts your attention away from your suffering, away from all the things that are happening to you, away from saving yourself, that's very important, into looking at this thing that is not what you think it is, this thing that will not help you. Keen observers will have noticed immediately that the timing of this reshuffle is very interesting. It has diverted attention of all Kenyans. We are talking about nothing else but this reshuffle. I mean, nobody was even fired. Yeah, that would have been more juicy. You ingelete mshene tamu. Nobody was fired. It is just a mirage to divert our attention. But from what? Okay. What has been happening recently? What has been happening recently that this administration would like to put a stop to? Answer: illegitimacy issues have escalated, especially after the revelations in the current ongoing Raila Ruto talks at the Bombers, suggesting, emphasizing, reminding us that actually Raila won the elections last August. That narrative has been up there, yeah, and the temperatures have been rising dangerously high. Then suddenly, pop, nobody's talking about it. We're all talking about the reshuffle. By the time the narrative shifts back to what is really hurting Kenyans, cost of living, stolen election, etc., etc., the narrative of what really ails Kenyans will have been slowed down considerably. This is politics. Never forget that. Which brings me to another issue nobody's talking about. You see, the people who put together, who crafted our 2010 Constitution were very determined to do one thing: to make a very clear distinction between politicians and powerful members of government called cabinet secretaries, for a very simple reason. You are a cabinet minister in charge of water, for example, and you know that in 2027 you want a parliamentary seat, you want to be governor. How are you going to allocate the budget in your docket? You're going to use it for your campaigns, of course. And meanwhile, Kenyans will suffer. Kenyans outside your region of interest will suffer because all the focus, the main push, will be for your campaigns in 2027. And so we can also say that the approach of the current administration of having so many politicians in government, in fact the vast majority of CSs are politicians, that move is a contravention of the spirit of our Constitution. It is a contravention of the very intent of our Constitution. And so in conclusion, out of our 3 M's, money, message, mirage, which one do I think was the main driving force? Okay, my answer, wait for this one, mirage. That is what this is, in my opinion, of course. And you're free to have your opinion, but that is my informed opinion. You know, your past, your history is what makes you what you are today. And this is why I would highly recommend that you don't miss My latest sizzler, you can see details on your screens right now. The Ruto, Kenyans will never know. Because with the information from this audiobook, you will not be surprised at the current turn of events in the country. You will not be surprised at this reshuffle. And this is the very, very last chance, for you to get it at only 1992 Kenya shillings or $19.92. That special offer. Go for it. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.
After the country settled into an uneasy peace post-2008 clashes, the Kenyan intelligence community came up with a plan to ensure that the horror that unfolded in the Rift Valley would never be repeated again. In the eyes of the intelligence community, an operation to deal with the Rift Valley problem would naturally have to start with the dismantling of the political power that Raila Odinga's ODM had in the region at the time. Meanwhile, ODM and Raila Odinga had no idea what had come over Ruto. Indeed, it took them a long time to realize what was happening, and by then it was too late to do anything in response. The big mistake Raila Odinga made with William Ruto was to concede to pressure and adjust the ODM constitution to make room for him at the top. The ODM constitution was changed to make room for 2 deputy party leaders. At the time, Musalia Mudavadi was already second in command, but the extra slot was created specifically for William Ruto. This has to be one of the mistakes Raila still regrets most to this day. Ruto did not rise from the desperate man with bloodshot eyes, always at the jobless corner every lunch hour in the Nairobi CBD at the time, in the 90s, to such a powerful politician by accident. Anybody who underestimates him does so at their own peril. Ruto got his start from the massive amounts of cash that Moi printed in 2002 and which was mainly distributed by the notorious YK92, Youth for KANU 92, of which Ruto was an official. To his credit, he followed this up with other bigger deals, where initially it was always assumed that he had been sent by Gideon Moi, the then president's son. Gideon, of course, had no idea what Ruto was doing.